You're watching CBS-12 News at 5.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Grimes, joining us live from Surfside. The big question right now, and that has remained, is so many people living in condos all around South Florida asking themselves, could this happen again? They see cracks or signs of aging within their building. Well, what should they do? Joining us right now is our chief investigator, Mike Magnolia. Mike, you've been digging into this story.
1.5 million residential condos, Jim. That's how many Florida has. And 600,000 of them are about the same age as Champlain Tower South or older. Hurricane season started at the beginning of the month, and a lot of folks in those condos are concerned that water could intrude the building and that could be a factor in a collapse later on down the line.
Our buildings are equally as old as that building was, and there are many signs of water getting in.
In 2016, Helene Harris moved to Boca Raton Century Village from New York. Many of her neighbors are also native New Yorkers, and they're proud of their reputation for being outspoken, blunt, and never taking no for an answer. Here's Suzanne Schieber.
It's hurricane season. When we had that near storm a week or so ago, I know I and many of the residents were in fear that we now have more damage.
It's fair to say right now many New York attitudes inside Century Village are on high, as residents are in conflict with the cable company that provides service to the complex. It's not about monthly bills. The fight is over what's happening here, along this exterior wall. This is a concern that's been amplified because of the Surfside collapse.
It has to be addressed, and our safety is what matters.
This building, Wolverton C, has several gaping holes. Water is getting inside the structure, and this is happening where the covered ducts for protecting the TV and internet wires have been attached to the building. The resident newspaper of Century Village has been covering this ongoing problem and the lack of response so far. There are more than 100 buildings in this community. The buildings that are 2, 3, and 4 stories have these same ducts.
How can that be safe if that's getting pounded with hurricanes or, air, water, wind? What happens when it gets in and rips the next thing out?
Picking up on her point, here's why water intrusion is worrisome. Remember, the week after the Surfside collapse, the CBS-12 News I-team detailed the findings in this 2018 field survey report at the Champlain Tower South. A company hired by the association, Morabito Consulting, had found multiple spots around the building where there was cracking. We do not see this crack as a source of water infiltration, one part of the report reads. Forensic engineers are now exploring if that conclusion was wrong, if water caused heavy corrosion deep inside the building, beyond view. The National Institute of Standards and Technology is the agency investigating what happened in Surfside. There are 6 separate teams. Earlier this month, they gave an update, only to say they haven't been able to pinpoint the cause of the collapse. Responding to Surfside, lawmakers in Tallahassee got a bill about condo safety to the governor's desk back in May during a special session. He signed it. The takeaways are: condos will need to be recertified after 30 years if they're 3 stories or higher, or are 25 years old and within 3 miles of the ocean. Every 10 years after that, they'll need to be recertified. And Florida will require condominium association boards to maintain money in reserves to cover critical repairs starting in 2025. Current law allows boards to waive that requirement.
Well, it's going to be special assessments potentially, especially for these associations that have not been funding reserves over the last 7 to 10 to 20 years.
Boca Raton attorney Lou Kaplan is an expert in the laws that govern condo boards. After Surfside, he sent a letter to Governor DeSantis calling for a state condo task force to be impaneled. We asked him about what lawmakers have just done.
And even this Senate Bill 4, it really is the municipalities that are going to have to enforce the statewide requirements. I think it's more palatable at this point, even though it's going to affect people's bottom line and it's going to affect them financially, but it's much more palatable. And I think the beautiful legacy of Surfside is now we're going to have safe buildings as opposed to inexpensive buildings.
Back in Century Village, Helene Harris talks about the legacy of Surfside too, 1 year later. And she tells me a positive effect of the devastating collapse is the pivot towards urgency, away from procrastination. In condos, repairs that might have been historically put off till later are now seen as time-sensitive and potentially life-saving. So Helene says she'll keep speaking up when things need to be fixed.
We have stucco cracking, and we have to determine what needs to be repaired, how it needs to be repaired, and then do we become the pancake? And I don't want to be in a pancake.
A lot of fear and a lot of anxiety among condo residents all over the state. We're back with more from Surfside in the 5:30. For now, we're live here on the scene of the Champlain Tower South. I'm Mike Magnoli, CBS 12 News.